Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Dan Hurley. I am the Director and Chair-elect of the Vancouver Island Economic Alliance. I'm also principal of the Hurley Martin Group. We are a new partnership focused on public relations, stakeholder engagement, philanthropy consulting, and training. I'm pleased to be your host and moderator today, and I'm speaking to you from Gabriel Island. I want to begin by acknowledging that we're on the traditional territories of the Coast Salish, the Nuchalit, and the Kwakiwak peoples, on whose traditional lands we live and work. I also want to give thanks to our sponsor for today, the Island Coastal Economic Trust. We thank them for their support. We appreciate everyone joining us today. This is now the 8th in our video series today. VIEA's goal in hosting these video events is to bring with us all together in common cause during this pandemic period. And we look forward and we're looking towards our road to recovery. VIEA's mission is twofold. We are here to unite and connect decision makers and to help and inform and add to the conversation on economic vitality on Vancouver Island and in the Gulf Islands. So before I introduce our presenter, a few details to remember. Our presentation will be about 10 minutes long, followed by a 15-minute question and answer period. To ask your questions, we ask you to use the chat function, which should be at the bottom of your screen. Just enter your question and direct it to me, Dan Hurley. Please keep your mutes on and your videos off during the presentation so that so as not to distract our presenter and to focus our discussion. So at this time, and if we don't get to your question during today's session, we encourage you to please email that to our president, George Hansen, at george@viea, VIEA.ca. So at this time, I'd like to welcome our speaker, Graham Truax, who is the Executive Director with Innovation Island. He will be speaking to us today about the new Digital Economy Response Program that aims to help to connect small and medium-sized businesses who want to enter the digital economy. So Graham, thanks very much for joining us today, and I'll now hand it over to you for the next 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Dan, and George, and everybody who's come together on this call. I hope everyone's doing well with all of the issues that we're facing. I'm going to try to keep my comments here very brief. I'll do a little bit of a screen share, and then like Dan was saying, we can get into some Q&A. So first of all, for some of you who may not know, Innovation Island is a nonprofit industry association. We work under a Crown Corporation called Innovate BC, which is essentially the province's longstanding organization serving tech and innovation mandates. Innovation Island has been around for 20 years. We used to be called Mystic, and I think some of you guys know that. And some of you have heard that we like to really focus on what I call the ROI, which is the rest of Island, everything but Victoria. We love Victoria, we're on one island, but our region is Malahat North, including the Gulf Islands and the Sunshine Coast. Personally, I've been working with Innovation Island since 2013. I moved to the island in 2008, and interestingly enough, the 2008 financial crisis had a little bit to do with that, but that's a longer story. With respect to this new program, the Digital Economy Response Program, we've partnered with Island Coast Economic Trust, and I want to thank Lynn and her team for putting this all together in short notice. First and foremost, this program really aims to help businesses that want to either enter or expand within the digital economy. We used to call the digital economy the internet economy, but the reality is that tech and digital platforms and services are touching every industry. We've got a lot of small, medium-sized businesses that are considering transitions more to the digital economy. Some have, and they're doing okay. These are tough times for everyone. I think if we consider a few phases with respect to what we're all going to go through here, we're kind of currently in a crisis phase. We're probably going to move to a transition phase, hopefully sooner than later. And then we're going to get into a recovery phase, which will set the table for the new normal. I think the new normal is going to be a little bit different than the old normal. We're probably going to find that digital platforms and services are going to be integrated in more businesses than ever before. This has been happening for a couple of decades now. But we've got examples all over the region of companies getting very creative on using digital services and platforms. And this program is designed to help that along. So let me just share a screen here. First of all, on our main front page for Innovation Island, we've got just this big red button here. This is our entry into the program. I'm just going to maximize this. What we're really trying to put together here is a rapid response and recovery framework for small, medium-sized businesses that are facing some of these challenges or issues. We're putting together a framework for digital business services and providers to be integrated within that process. We're also putting together a very exciting list of what we're calling subject matter experts. I think we all know within our communities, we have folks that have come from industry. Some are retired, maybe some have taken exits within their companies. Some have consulting services. There's a real huge base of talent within our region. This program brings all of this together to deal with issues that we're going to face in transition periods and in our recovery periods. And it's a simple onboarding process. It's free to all businesses to apply. Each of these links has respective forms. We have a detailed privacy policy. Everything follows a lot of very traditional digital protocols for what needs to happen with this sort of information. And from there, we have 2 managers that are going to deal with our first onboarding. And then we have subsequent layers of subject matter experts and professional service providers designed and engaged to help businesses with the needs that they have here and now. Any questions? Hello?
Dan, we can't hear you if you're speaking, you're on mute.
Sorry for that. Be interested just to hear a little bit about, you've just launched this program about a week or so ago. What has been the response so far? Any success stories or any major questions that are coming up?
Yeah, thanks. So just for sake of everyone on the call here, we did our soft launch on Wednesday, on the 15th, and the soft launch went to all of the chambers of commerce, to the VIEA folks, to the VIEA ACDEV Association, and that kind of set the table for just getting going. Just yesterday, we did our actual formal launch to our own database, and as of this morning, we have 35 companies that are registered in the program. The needs are quite diverse right now. The digital readiness factors for some of these companies are still being kind of considered. And I'd say it's a tad too early for success stories, but we are seeing a lot of creativity with businesses really trying to figure out how to best position within digital platforms or services.
So Graham, we have a question here that just maybe walk through what a typical process would look like. Give us an example of what that step-by-step would look like using this program.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. So it's really fairly straightforward in 3 categories. If you're a small, medium-sized business of virtually any sort, you can just click through that link, and there's a form that gives us some profile questions so that we can start to assess the needs or opportunities there too. If you're a digital service provider, we really will be inventorying the skills and services that your business could provide. That's important because for businesses that need more in-depth activities, those service providers need to be matched with respect to capacities. On the third category, you could be an engineer, a scientist, an inventor, an artist, etc. We're also inventorying those skill sets to provide some matching with respect to the needs that are coming from the businesses that have applied in the program.
So as a small business with plans to develop an online platform for health and safety risk management, what are the key criteria required to qualify for support? For example, the size of the company, economic impact, and the monetary value, etc.
So real off the top and real easy, anybody can apply. It's a free service regardless of the size or sector of your business. But to the example that you pointed out there, we get into an assessment where we take a deeper dive on what they're trying to accomplish within the digital domain. Our team has over 100 years experience in these spaces, and we can either pose really good questions, or we could provide very novel solutions and help them advance those objectives.
Okay. Can you maybe explain the types of businesses that can apply? Are there some specific examples that you could use?
Sure. So I was on a conference call with the minister that we report to, Minister Mungell in JEDC. And, you know, I had an opportunity to share, you know, some of the background on this project. And I stated that, you know, our communities can't afford to lose our downtowns. They can't afford to lose Main Street retail. And Minister Mungall said, yeah, you know, I live in Nelson, and I can't imagine losing Baker Street. Anyone's been to Nelson, you probably know Baker Street. All of our towns have a Baker Street. So we have retailers selling clothes, shoes, other services. We all know that a mass percentage of our businesses are shut down right now. So this is really wide ranging. Some of our early applicants are proving that. We also know that, like restaurants, a certain percentage of restaurants in our region were early adopters to a platform service called Skip the Dishes. Well, that was a good decision for them right now. Some restaurants are now racing to get onto platforms and services like that. So we are already getting quite a diversity, and we certainly expect an increasing diversity over the next few weeks, especially with respect to these onboarding processes.
So Graham, would you describe this as a concierge program that helps to identify what a client needs and then connect them with local expertise?
Yes and no. Internally, with the team that we have, we do a pretty deep dive, and if there are products or solutions or business bits and pieces of advice, we just do that directly. If there are more complicated challenges, well, we're going to dive into that, and then we're going to provide some recommendations for some matching services. We all know that some businesses are taking serious looks at what government supports are out there, and some are a little concerned about that. If you consider the nature of our business, which is a longer conversation, but we help startups enter the digital economy that are designing and inventing things. It's a very hands-on process, and we work with those companies to realize, you know, their objectives. So it's similar to that, but more rapidly deployed.
And this is a service available across the island region?
The service is open and running now for the entire region, north of the Malahat, up, you know, tip of the island, Gulf Islands, northern Gulf Islands, and the Sunshine Coast as well.
And is there a time requirement for being a subject matter expert?
I'm not sure if I get what you mean, a time requirement.
I mean, maybe
a commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's completely dependent on the individual.
Okay. Do SMEs acting more in an educational capacity rather than building this company a website?
So I do want to emphasize that this is not just about building websites. That's easily kind of inferred, but it's much more than that. Entering the digital economy, can include everything from back office stuff. A lot of businesses, don't have active CRM systems. It can include various campaigns for doing digital customer acquisition, expanding markets. The platforms now are pretty comprehensive, so we want to make sure that people can assess and have perhaps a deeper understanding of what's possible in entering or expanding within the digital domain, and that's a big part of what we're trying to do with it.
So is this focused on the technology of digital business, or is it about improving target marketing using digital services?
Correct. This is for traditional physical economy businesses engaging with digital platforms or services that can help them do more and better. Again, I think we can all think of businesses that we know within the region that have been doing some of these things for many years, in some cases, quite successfully. A lot of active businesses with hybrid models have quite surprising revenue splits between what they do online and what they do physically traditionally. We really feel, and we got a lot of data from the province and country that support the fact that businesses that take that road generally do better, and the businesses that have taken that road are doing better currently.
Okay, maybe you can explain a little bit, how do the SMEs make the match and connection with the digital service provider?
That's what we do internally. We have a review process where we take all of these data points and work to do a variety of assessments, and that's really based again on a lot of internal subject matter expertise that represents our day-to-day relationship within our industry.
So what technical expertise and specialists are you specifically looking for, and how can local economic development support you to find these people in the region?
So, great question. I'm going to answer that kind of at large here, because one of the amazing, powerful, interesting things within the digital domain is the connecting of supposedly disparate or seemingly irrelevant skill sets. We want a diversity of talents to combine and collide, to envision perhaps new ways of doing things. It's easy to look back and say, geez, there's a company called Uber that really just figured out a better way to move people around, and a company called Airbnb that took a couple century old practice of bed and breakfasts and use a digital platform to deliver that. So we actually don't want to be too specific on what the participants need or bring to the table. We want to be surprised by the talents and skills that folks have, and we want to be surprised even by some of the challenges that some of these businesses are facing. In our day-to-day stuff, we get this all the time. So we're looking for synergies, we're looking for serendipity. The new economy, in my strong opinion, is going to do quite well with folks that figure that stuff out.
So just speaking of that, in terms of synergies or partnerships or working together, what role do you see communities, government, or governmental organizations playing in supporting you here?
First and foremost, if you know small businesses that are considering any of these types of things, point them to the site, get them to apply. If you have folks that are subject matter experts, same thing. Likewise, each and every one of our communities has a pretty good stable of what we're calling digital service providers. A lot of those businesses we know, there's about 600 of them that we have in our database. Well, they're busy, like they should be busy. But as they understand how this program can help them do what they're doing, and how this program can help them with these businesses, and in a lot of cases, those are going to be new contracted engagements. They're actually getting excited about how this could actually make that work.
So work does Innovation Island do with these businesses directly? Just so we can clear that up.
Totally. The first part is assessment, and then the second part is a set of recommendations. We put together a profile and a package, and we work one-to-one with businesses. So we do a lot of hand-holding. We want to really seek, first understand, make sure they have some references with respect to what they're trying to do. If you're a small business and you have 10,000 SKUs that have never been digitized, well, that's a pretty big job. If you got 100 different products, well, that's more manageable. So really, there's a lot of hands-on work at the front end of this, but I got to be frank, it's based on the assessment of any given profile for any given business.
Right. Now, it's a question that just came in here. What funding is available to organizations that develop their online business?
We're not a direct funder. I think, people probably would respect that. However, we do have a compiling database of different funding opportunities that may or may not qualify. There will be a continual set of resources that are maturing. We rep government partners, both federally and provincially. Small Business BC is turning out to be one of the best portals for the collection of this information, and so we can fast track a lot of those relationships as well. Yes,
and in our last presentation, we did have the CEO of Small Business BC on here to talk about the portal. So if you haven't seen that, I encourage you to take a look at that resource at this time. So just to clarify again, I got a couple of questions here. I think you addressed it already, but this service is available island-wide and across the Gulf Islands.
Correct.
Yeah. So anyone who's in the Victoria area or south of the Malahat, this program is available to you. Okay.
No, Dan, that's actually not correct.
Oh, okay.
No, our region for sorry, it's Jennifer here. Our region for Innovation Island is north of the Malahat, all the way to Port Hardy, all of the northern Gulf Islands, so Swinetula, Alert Bay, the southern Gulf Islands, and the Sunshine Coast. So if you are below the Malahat, then no, in Victoria, this program, unfortunately, is not for you.
So is there an organization that's similar, or is there a similar kind of arrangement for those businesses?
We've been asked to perhaps conceptually expand this program to other parts of the province, and then for the most part we're probably fine with doing that. But our relationship within the region is quite specific, and it covers everything but Greater Victoria.
Okay. Another couple of questions just came in here. So once a business is put in contact with an SME, do they then negotiate pieces like fees together, or does everything go through you?
So as I'm sure you can imagine, there are a few sensitivities with things of that nature. We have to manage these requirements and these relationships fairly and equitably, and we will. We also want to really make sure that businesses get the right things done in the right order. So we're going to be strong advocates for the businesses, and we can review some of the proposals that are there, but at the end of the day, those are business relationships outside of our control.
Okay, once you give recommendations to businesses on what to do the businesses who connect with those experts have to pay them, or is it covered by the program?
No, the first part is covered by the program, and that can go quite a distance. I think we could all respect that in today's economy within the digital space, a lot of companies have made the use of their tools and the benefit of their tools much more user-friendly than in the past, and so with a little bit of guidance, we're very confident that a lot of businesses can take a fairly significant do-it-yourself approach, but it does depend on the scale of their objectives and the scale of some of the back office requirements that they would need.
Now, do you know if this is a program that's going to be offered through other organizations across BC?
I don't know that.
Okay. Just a point of clarification. So a point about that the SMEs aren't fee-based and the digital service provider do charge fees. Is that correct?
So digital service providers and various subject matter experts, to be honest, may or may not charge fees. That's outside of our immediate control, but it's all based on the scope of requirements. You know, in our office, we work with dozens of subject matter experts, some of which are mentors and advisors or consultants. A lot of them, very good willing, provide a ton of pro bono stuff. We can't control that. It's based on the needs of the businesses. On the flip side, digital service providers throughout our region, a lot of them are getting quite helpful and generous with providing certain skills and services, you know, courtesy. But when it comes to a slightly larger load, you know, then you know, folks are going to need to figure out some contract to get those things done.
How about nonprofit organizations? Is there any opportunity for them in this program?
Absolutely, absolutely. We know that many nonprofits, you know, have substantial challenges that are quite similar to small businesses, and that they may be looking at advancing or utilizing, you know, digital tools or services in newer creative ways. So by all means, green light on bringing in nonprofits as well.
Okay, well, we got about a minute or so left. Can you just explain a little bit about how, just remind people how they can get additional information and how they can apply for the program?
Thank you. Yes. So two basic ways. Just go to our primary website, and we've got a big orange button that directs you to our landing site for the page. We've really made the onboarding process quite simple. There's 3 buttons, and read the descriptions, quite straightforward, and sign up. This is all confidential information. It's locked down by both our provincial regulatory body as well as our privacy policies. So there's no reason for folks not to take a serious look at what we can do for them in this regard.
And we've just posted thank you, Jennifer, you just posted the direct web page in the chat. If you want to copy that down, innovationisland.ca/DER3 is where you can get that additional information. So Graham, thank you very much again today. Very interesting program, and we really appreciate you walking us through this, and want to thank you and everyone at Innovation Island for taking this leadership.
Thank you, guys, and excellent questions, Dan. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. And if we did miss a question, or if you think about it afterwards, please send that your questions to our president, George Hansen, george@viea.ca. So today's session has also been recorded, and it will be posted on our webpage and pushed out through our social media channels later today. So our next session will be this Thursday, April 23rd. And we do have a special guest that day. We have Terry Beach, who is the Member of Parliament for Burnaby North Seymour, and he's also the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans. And he will be here to discuss the federal government's programs and their response to this pandemic period. So you won't want to miss that. It will be at 3 p.m., so not our regular 11:30, so it'll be 3 p.m., and it'll also be for 60 minutes. So we've got lots of questions. No doubt there'll be lots of questions from many of you. So please join us on Thursday at 3 p.m. to speak to Mr. Beach. And please pass this information on to your friends and associates. And if you haven't already signed up for our e-news, please do so on our webpage, VIEA.ca. And thank you very much for joining us today. Please continue to keep good company, and thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful day.